Last summer, my family drove me to my cousin's house. They live in a large house in the middle of the country. I usually spend the summer months here with them every year because they live near a massive lake and have lots of woods to explore. As a teenage boy, that's all you could really want. A week into my visit, their parents had to run to the grocery store for last-minute grocery shopping. The store was located an hour away. My cousin and I knew we would be home alone for a long time. At the time, it was also raining really bad as a huge thunderstorm was passing by. We wanted to wait till it got dark to play a game of hide and seek. Once the sun started to set, we turned off all the lights in the house and started playing the game. Since there was only 2 people playing, the point of the game was to see who finds the other person in the shortest amount of time. We each had our phone timers to see how long it took to find each other. After a quick game of rock, paper, scissors, which I won, we decided that my cousin would seek first. I told him to go upstairs in his room and count to 40. While I was looking for a spot to hide, I heard a small creak that sounded like a door opening. I was a little confused, but ended up reassuring myself that it must have been noises from the old house. I also went to check on the front door, which was coincidentally left unlocked. After locking the front door, I finally found my spot to hide, behind the couch. I heard my cousin leave his room. This meant the game had started. It took some time, but he eventually found me behind the couch. I was expecting him to show me his timer to see how long it took for him to find me, but all he did was ask me, "Did you walk up the stairs by any chance?" He told me he heard footsteps and thought it was me. I figured it was just old creaks and sounds from the house. This time, it was my turn to count, so I went into my cousin's room and started to count. While I was counting, I heard a tapping sound coming from somewhere on the second floor. I knew it must have been my cousin, so I was excited because I knew I would find him quickly. As soon as I finished counting, I ran out and started looking everywhere. I checked every single room. The only thing left to check was a closet on the opposite side of the second floor. I knew my cousin must be in there. When I opened the door to the closet, I couldn't see anything, but I could hear faint breathing coming from the right side of the closet. I quickly turned to the right and yelled, "I gotcha." To my surprise, there was a man in the corner of the closet, crouched hiding behind a large box. I was terrified, screaming as loud as I could. I slammed the door shut and ran down the stairs calling for my cousin. My cousin was downstairs in the bathroom hiding. I told him everything and he was extremely scared. He had no idea there was a strange man in the house this entire time. That was when we heard the footsteps. The man must have been walking down the stairs. I decided it was best to call the police for our safety. "Come out of the bathroom," a creepy voice said from the other side. This gave me goosebumps. My cousin yelled at the man, telling him to leave since we called the police. The man tried opening the door, but failed as it was locked. I guess he then gave up, because we heard footsteps and the front door of the house opening and then closing. When the police finally arrived, they looked through the security cameras to see if the man had left. The cameras caught the man running straight into the woods. The cameras also caught the man standing in front of the house earlier in the day. The worst part is when the man easily walked into the house through the front door since the door was unlocked. After that experience, my cousin and I never played hide and seek again. It was a nice hot summer day. My 4 friends and I wanted to play hide and seek around our local high school. I was 13 at the time of this experience. We wanted to play at night since it made the game more fun. When the sun finally started to set, my friends and I all gathered around the high school. The rules were simple. We were only allowed to hide around the block. After a long time of arguing about who should be the seeker first, my friend ultimately agreed. When he started counting, my 3 friends and I all sprinted away, looking for spots to hide. Our only source of light was our phones. You can probably imagine that it wasn't much light to work with. On the same block as our high school, there's an abandoned building, which we always like to hide in when we play hide and seek. I knew I wanted to hide there, so I ran towards that direction. My heart was racing, as I was standing in front of the door to the building. I was terrified. For some reason, I had a bad feeling, but I shook it off and entered the building. Inside, it was extremely dark, with my phone lighting the way. There was lots of broken desks and chairs. I quickly walked to the second floor, using the creaky stairs. When I reached the floor, I walked to the far corner of the building and hid behind a giant box. I also turned off my phone flashlight. I waited for a little, until I heard the creaky stairs. I knew it must have been my friend, so I tried to stay as quiet as possible. The footsteps then reached the second floor, and got closer and closer to the room I was in. When the footsteps entered the room, I froze in fear, waiting for my friend to find me. But that didn't happen. The footsteps stopped, and there was not a single sound. I realized it could not have been my friend, as they always use their phone flashlight. I softly mumbled the word, "Hello?" The footsteps started again, towards me this time. I quickly turned on my phone flash, expecting to see my friend. But instead I saw a tall man, dressed in all black, walking towards me. I quickly ran from behind the box and down the stairs, leaving the building. Outside I found my friends, which saw how shook I looked. "What happened?" they asked. I told them the entire story, and as I was about to reach in my pocket for my phone, I realized it wasn't there. I must have dropped it while I was panicking. I told my friends, and they all agreed that we should all go inside and retrieve my phone. We figured it would be a 5 versus 1, so we should be okay. We also figured the man probably left, so we started up on the creaky stairs. Once we reached the far end of the building, in the same room I was in, I could see my phone, and the flash was still on. Before I could walk in and grab the phone, my friend stopped me. He gestured towards us to run and forget about the phone. Once we left the building and left the area completely, my friend told us the entire story. Apparently he saw 3 people dressed in all black, hiding in a closet waiting for me to pick up my phone. That's when all of us realized that we were probably going to walk into a trap. This story takes place a couple years ago, when I was around 15 years old. I was at my best friend's house, about to play a game of hide and seek. There must have been like 8 girls at my friend's house, including me. We played a game of chance to decide who the seeker will be for the first round. Somehow, I got picked to be the seeker, which kinda annoyed me, but I just went along with the game. The rules were simple. You can't leave the property, but you're allowed to hide inside and outside. With that being said, all my friends ran, trying to look for spots to hide in, while I started counting. My goal was to find all 7 girls quickly, because I always hated being seeker. I know I sound like a little kid, but it's so boring, trying to find everyone. It's always more fun when you're on the other side, trying to find a good spot to hide. Anyways, after I finished counting to 60 seconds, I began searching for the girls. I think I found 2 of them, when I began hearing it. The strange sound coming from the 3rd floor of the house. Now, the house has 3 floors, but it's not as big as you think. The 3rd floor only consists of 1 room and a door that leads to the attic. My friend always advised us to try not to hide in the attic, because it was not safe. The weak ceiling could fall at any time. It sounded like a strange, creepy scratching sound. I figured one of the girls is probably hiding in the room upstairs, and I knew I was going to find him. I walked up the stairs as quietly as possible. When I entered into the room, I looked around and found nothing. There was nobody in there, but I could still hear the sound. It sounded like it was coming from inside the wall. I pressed my face up to the wall to listen closely. It was coming from the other side. I was beginning to panic because I didn't know what was making the sound. Then I realized, on the other side of the wall is the attic. Since the room and the attic are so close together, the sound must be coming from the attic. I knew my friend always told us to not go in the attic, but I figured someone was hiding in there, and I wanted to find them to end the game. So I walked out of the upstairs room and faced the door to the attic. The door looked extremely old. Nonetheless, I slowly grabbed the doorknob and turned, opening the door. As soon as the door opened, the scratching sound sounded louder. I knew I was on the right track and would find one of the girls soon. I followed the sound to the back of the attic until it led me to a large cabinet standing in the middle of the room. The sound was coming from inside the cabinet. As I stood there in front of the cabinet, thoughts began to race through my head. Which one of the girls could it be? I thought to myself. I reached for the cabinet and swung open the door. There was old clothes inside, but no sign of anyone. I moved around some of the clothes, and still there was nobody, but the strangest part was the sound stopped as soon as I opened the door. I began to get extremely scared and let out a scream. That's when the door to the attic slammed closed, and the lights to the attic also turned off. I was so scared that I quickly turned on my phone flash and ran over to the attic door. Luckily, it was unlocked, and I was able to run out and down all the way to the first floor of the house. I called my friends and told them to end the game and come out since we need to talk. I told them the entire story while sobbing, and all of them seemed to get freaked out. They told me no one was hiding on the third floor, let alone the attic. This absolutely scared the living daylights out of me. I convinced my best friend to check the attic again with all of us since I was scared for her safety, as it's her house. We all walked upstairs and into the attic. The lights were on and the door was unlocked. That was strange, as when I ran out of the attic, the lights were off. My friends and I walked over to the cabinet and opened it, expecting someone to be inside. There was nothing inside, and there was no sound. I never believed in paranormal activity or anything, but I have no other explanation as to what happened to me that day. Luckily, nothing else ever happened at my friend's house.